Alright, how's it going everybody? Welcome to what may be my final Need for Speed Carbon ranking video. Today I'm going to be ranking all the tier 3 cars from slowest to fastest, and I'll be including the Audi Le Mans and the BMW M3 GTR as well, since they're still technically featured in career mode. And if you haven't seen the ranking videos for tier 1 and 2, each car will receive full upgrades, custom tuning settings which you can find in the description below, and will be tested on the Ocean View circuit track. Now with all that out of the way, let's get into the countdown. In dead last, we have the Infiniti G35, which ran a 139.80, and while this car does have some good handling, it suffers from a severe lack of power. So much so that I don't think it should be considered tier 3 at all. In fact, it gets beaten by 5 of the tier 2 cars and the 240SX. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have the 67 Shelby, which has really good power, but absolutely struggles in corners. This car just refuses to hold a proper racing line, and you practically have to slow to a crawl to take low speed corners. And the exact same can be said for the number 17 car, which is the Plymouth Cuda, which completed a lap in 137.48. And like I said about the GT500, the Cuda is a very powerful car, but the handling is just not that good. At number 16, we have the STI, which ran a lap in 134.98. And I've actually found that the best way to tune this car is to slightly set it towards understeer. Now let me explain why. So, most all-wheel drive cars in this game and most wanted have a weird thing that when you play the game with manual transmission, you can actually get more turning radius by downshifting and over-revving and staying at full throttle, allowing you to take the corners significantly faster. Now this can be a little tricky to control, but when you combine it with a slight understeer tune, it becomes a lot more manageable. For instance, I was able to improve my original run of a 135.85 by almost a full second. Anyways, now that I've yapped enough about that exploit, the only major flaw with the STI is a lack of power. Another thing I found out is that most of the tier 3 tuner cars are pretty much the exact same, both performance and lap wise. As you can see, the 350Z only beat the STI by about 0.2 of a second, and I can pretty much say the same about both cars, how their weakness is a slight lack of power, and their advantage is their handling. Same with the Toyota Supra, I don't feel like it drives that differently from the 350Z. Still, just mediocre power and decent handling. There's really not a whole lot more I can say about it. At number 13, we have yet another tuner car. The R34 GTR did a lap in 133.84. And while this car does have better acceleration than the previous tuner cars, I really don't think it's enough to set it apart from the others. Number 12, we have the Lamborghini Gallardo, which did a lap in 133.65. And this car's major weakness is its understeer. You'll need to use the previously mentioned downshift trick as well as a lot of finesse through the corners. At number 11, we have the Dodge Viper, and while I'm under the impression that this is one of, if not the most powerful car in the game, its handling just doesn't do it any favors because holy hell does this car slide. And as much as I've tried to tune it to counteract the sliding, it seems like nothing really helps. So, in my opinion, if you want raw power, just stick to the Z06, because this car just seems too powerful for its own good. Coming into the top 10 now, we have the Dodge Challenger Concept, which did a lap in 1 minute 33 seconds exactly. And surprisingly, this car is actually very pleasant to drive, and doesn't really require any custom suspension settings. In fact, I've tested numerous custom suspension setups, and each one was actually slower than the default settings. So if you plan on using this car, your best course of action would be to tune for power, and leave the suspension settings alone. Number 9, we have the SLR McLaren, which ran a 132.56 lap time, and the main problem that plagues this car is its heavy steering, but it does have some decent power. Number 8, we have the Ford GT clocking in at 132.54, and this car is just decent overall, and honestly it feels pretty similar to the SLR McLaren, but with slightly better handling. At number 7, we have the M3 GTR, and while this car does feel slightly down on power compared to most of the exotics, it definitely makes up for it with downforce and handling similar to that of a tuner car. At number 6, we have the Lamborghini Murcielago, and just like with the SLR, this car's main weakness is heavy steering. But it's pretty powerful and can be tamed with proper tuning and decent driving. At number 5, we have the Evo 9 with a lap time of 131.36, and with its decent acceleration and incredible handling, you just can't go wrong with this car. At number 4, we have the 911 Turbo with a lap time of 130.46, and this car feels like that rare combination of exotic car power and tuner car handling. It's just overall very solid and very well balanced. Now for the top 3, starting with the Carrera GT in 3rd place. And to me, this car feels very similar to the 911 in terms of power and handling, but the steering can be just a bit heavier at times. Number 2, we have the Audi Le Mans Quattro, which is a perfectly balanced car with insane amounts of power, incredible grip and cornering ability. It just feels virtually flawless. If you ever wonder why you had a hard time with Darius way back then, it's probably because of this car. And in the number 1 spot, I mean, everybody else saw this coming too, right? This car is just an absolute cheat code. It goes head to head with the Viper for the most powerful car in the game, like I said earlier, but unlike the former, it actually does have the handling to back it up. Now, does it slide a little bit? Yes, but it's very much controllable. So much so that, in my opinion, you don't even really need that much skill to drive it, and you don't really need to tune the suspension settings either. So that concludes ranking all cars in Need for Speed Carbon from worst to best. And I want to give a big thanks to everyone who actually stuck around for tiers 1 and 2 as well. Anyways, here's the final leaderboard. And there you have it, the final results for every purchasable car in the game with the addition of the M3 and the R8, ranked from slowest to fastest lap time. With that being said, I currently have no plans to rank the rest of the special cars in this game, but if you really want to see a video ranking them, I'll consider it in the future. In the meantime, if you enjoyed my Carbon retesting series, feel free to leave a like. And if you want to keep up with all of my future videos, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. Anyways, that's gonna be it for me. See you on the next one.